We have Emma Conlon with us, Leo's mom, and she's coming to us all the way from Newcastle, UK, and she's going to share her story. And he's got quite a story, and also it's great for our American families to see how the NHS works over there because it's so different than what we deal with. Tell us how you learned about CDH.
Well, it was at my 20-week scan, obviously. Like most people, like no one knows what CDH ever is until your baby gets diagnosed with it. But I had my 20-week scan, and the woman, she was like searching around. Leo was really wriggling about, and she said, "Oh, go to the toilet, because obviously you need your bladder full when you go for ultrasound. So go to the toilet and come back, just because I can't see like what everything I need to see." I said, "All right," and I was all on cloud nine, and she came back, and then you could tell like the atmosphere in the room just like changed. I was like, and then she started just asking us weird questions. Is this your first baby and stuff like that? And I was like, okay. But then she stopped, sat back in her chair, and she had this horrible look on her face, and she just said, "I can't see your baby's diaphragm, and his stomach is in line with his heart." And I said, "Oh, what does that mean?" She said, "It looks like a diaphragmatic hernia." But I heard hernia, and I thought, hernia, it can't be that bad, really. But I think that's what everyone else thinks, like it's really not just the hernia. But they said it was they put us in a different room and said, "Whatever you do, don't Google." But I had to wait for a consultant scan, which was 4 days after, so I didn't actually get a diagnosis. They just said they like suspect it, and then 4 days later I went I went out and I just Googled everything, and 4 days later I had a consultant scan, and they said, yeah, diaphragmatic hernia. And at that point I think they said stomach and bowel, but they weren't sure about the liver until I got referred to like a bigger hospital. I went to fetal medicine, and they said the liver, stomach and bowel is off, and I had to get an MRI scan. And at that point they said he had 20% of his liver open. That put us in the worst like category, like severe category. They basically just didn't have much hope for Leo. No one ever did really, but obviously we know how well Leo done.
Okay, so you find out you have diaphragmatic hernia, and you're in the middle of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
How did you prepare for that? How did you tell your family and your friends?
Oh well, Clayton, my boyfriend, he was at an interview for a new job on the day of my scan. So, but we had like an early gender reveal scan at 16 weeks, and that was like a well-being scan at that point as well. And everything was fine on that scan. They said everything was fine. We found out it was a boy. And so when it got to my 20-week scan, Clayton had an interview. I said, "Oh, Clayton, it's all right. Like, the job is important. We know Leah was okay." And so he wasn't at the scan. It was actually Clayton's nana that was with us. So the first person I rang was my dad, who lives in Cambodia. And I told him, and he Googled it all. And then I had to go back home and wait for Clayton to get back, and I had to tell Clayton, and we just did not know what to do. But the way I felt was just strong. Like, I just thought, that's my baby. No one's going to tell me what's going to happen. Like, I was just so positive about the whole thing. So positive. People saying, "I don't know how you're so positive," and what, you've got to be. Like, if you're not positive and strong, what else have you got to be?
Yeah. Wow. And the day of the birth, Do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah. It's so much went on that day. So because Leo was he was really small birth weight, because I had placenta problems, something about, I can't really remember, the artery from in the cord wasn't working properly, so I was at fetal medicine unit from when I was 24 weeks pregnant. I was there twice a week, every week. So a lot of time was spent there. And we knew he was going to be really small, so I had to get induced when I was 37 weeks. So I went in to get induced. I had my first pressy, all fine. I started contractions, and then the next one, she was like, "Oh, you're still 1 centimetre," and that was 6 hours later. I was furious. And then the same happened at about 12 hours after my first one. You're still 1 centimetre, but she brought my waters for us. And then I got moved to delivery because obviously she popped my waters. And when I got moved to delivery, I got an epidural. But when I got the epidural, I could still feel my contractions on one side, so I had to tip over on the other side to try and like move it down. And then so about 3 hours after having my epidural, it was doctor's ward round, and the doctor that was on was my doctor from fetal medicine, so I knew him and he knew everything about Leo. And he said, "I'm really not happy with Leo's heartbeat." He said, "I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna monitor the heartbeat like with your contractions every like for 10 minutes." And I said, "Right, okay." I didn't think anything of it. He said, "Worst case scenario, we'll need to do a C-section," which I was so scared for. And so waited 10 minutes. I was just chatting away to my midwife. Like, I literally did not think a thing of it. And he came in, he said, "We're going to do an emergency C-section." And I said, "What?" I was honestly so scared. And obviously you only allowed one partner in with you, so I had my mum and Clayton with us. And when we went in, I was only allowed Clayton, but I was in that much of like a hysterical mess that my doctor said, "No, I want both partners in, get our mum in as well." So we were prepping us for the C-section, and I said to them, "Oh, I can still feel like my contractions on one side." I said, "Right, okay, we'll put your epidural up." So they've done that. They've done it 5 times, and I thought, okay, it's got to have worked by now. So I just said, "Right, go ahead." And how wrong was I? They started like to do like a test to see if I can feel it, and I could feel it, so I had to get put to sleep. And I think that's what broke us, because I woke up not like, I didn't know if Leo was going to be here when I woke up, and that was really, really hard. But I woke up and I was dazed, and like obviously when you wake up from anesthetic and you don't know anything. So I woke up and I just screamed for him. I said, where is he? How is he? And they said, "He's all right, he's stable. They've got him in the unit." And then I fell back asleep. I couldn't it feels bad, but I couldn't help but fall back asleep. And then they woke us up about 2 hours after that, and Clayton had been to see him. So they showed us photos of him for the first time. And it was just, I just knew he was going to be okay. Like, I was, of course, worried, but I just had a feeling he was going to be okay. And I was on the, what's it called? The recovery. I was on recovery with obviously me, my mum and Clayton, but I was on with all the other women that had their babies, and all I could hear was babies crying. And that was I don't know why I was on there, because obviously I didn't have my baby. I didn't know how he was. I couldn't see him until 8 hours after he'd been born. And when he'd been born, obviously They said he's really, really poorly. And when I went to see him, I could see everything. He was oscillated. He had nitrate, all the medications. He was on 100% oxygen. And I didn't really take it in. It was really hard to see. Obviously, that the first time meeting your baby, you still haven't held him yet, and he's on all of them machines that came alive. And I said, one of the doctors, I said, can you ask if he can get ECMO? Because obviously I've researched everything before having him and I knew what ECMO was. And so he said, I'll ring them, but I don't think he's going to qualify. He was born £4.3. So they rang and came back and said he doesn't qualify for ECMO. And I was like, right, it's up to Leo now. But the doctors weren't, well, obviously you're not going to be very positive when you're looking at a baby that's on oscillator and nitric and 100% oxygen. Like, and Leo's CDH was really severe, and obviously everyone knew that. He had less than 50% chance, and I think at birth it was something like less than 20 because he was so that it took a while for him to get his sats up, like a long time. But when they said he couldn't get ECMO, I was like, well, that's up to Leo.
Wow. Okay. So tell us how he did without ECMO.
Right. So without ECMO, so he was on the oscillator for I think a week and a half, and he went on a conventional ventilator just by absolute chance because me and Clayton walked in one morning. We were like, oh, it's really quiet in here. We did not click on anything. We didn't click on why it was quiet. So we're looking around every time we went round. We'd look at all his medication, his oxygen, what his gases were, everything. So then Clayton went over, looked at his ventilator, said, hey, it look really different. And I looked and I said, Clayton, he's not in the oscillator anymore. And I I grabbed the nurse and I said, what's happened? I was like, what's going on? And said, something happened with his ventilator. So they've done some changes and then put them on conventional while they were doing it. And turned out we liked it better. So they kept on that.
Wow.
But I know, exactly. They kept him on that. It was just by fluke, really. But without ECMO, he done it himself. So he got in the conventional. I think he started doing really good with his oxygen. I think the lowest we got him was 26% oxygen, and that was when he was about 2 weeks old. But that's the lowest ever we've got him. But he had his surgery. He got stable. We'll wait because that's what you obviously need to wait for. He got stable when he was 3 weeks old. And he had his surgery at 3 weeks. And I know most babies with CDH have it in the first few days, but with Leo it took weeks, so it proved to be for the best.
All right. And so how did things change?
With surgery?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you actually about surgery. So obviously the surgery would take, Leo was severe. So we thought about 4 hours it was going to take. And so we left him at the doors of the surgery, and we waited. There was like a accommodation where you staying. We just stayed in there, and it got to 3.5 hours. So I thought, right, we'll go back up to surgery. We'll wait outside the doors for him and see when he comes out. So I was sitting waiting, and then I got to about 4.5 hours after, like, while he's been in surgery. And so I thought, right, we'll just wait a little bit more. So I went downstairs, went to Subway, and then our family came, like, because we were just coming anyways to see Leo. And he still wasn't out yet, and it got to 6 hours that he'd been in surgery, and I thought, I'm not having this. So I went up to surgery. I started asking people that were coming out, and I was like, do you know where Leo is? Do you know how long it's going to be? So this man said, oh, he shouldn't be too long. And he didn't tell us anything else. What happened? And then I looked down the corridor, and I seen one of Leo's nurses, and she was running up. I said, oh, where's Leo? Was he out yet? And she said, yes, he's out. Go and meet us down on the ward. We've had to bring him the nitric back up, but we'll tell you about it when we get back. I thought, oh my God. So we went back, we were waiting in the waiting room for about an hour. And then he came in and was saying he had like this big like cushion thing on his belly. And I was like, what is that? Because I've seen what CDH repairs look like. It's just a line railing with steri strips. And then the surgeons came, and all of the consultants sat us down and said he nearly got in cardiac arrest in theatre. So they had to bring the whole team, and they finished, basically nearly finished the surgery, but it was at the end of the surgery where he dropped down. All of his sats went down, his heart rate, everything, and said his spleen in his liver bled a lot. He lost quite a lot of blood, and said something like, when the liver is bleeding, it can, like, if it bleeds a lot, you bleed out. That's basically what they said. They said when it keep an eye on him in the next few days, because he's a critical, like, he could go at any minute. So that was just a ticking time bomb, really. We were so scared the next few days, but nothing happened. So obviously they weren't finished the surgery, so they had to leave his whole wound open. They repaired the diaphragm, and they said it was just a huge hole. He had everything up, like everything apart from his kidneys was up there. That's what they said. It was really severe CDH, but they said that his lung, there was actually more lung than what they expected. But I don't know. So he just had this massive like patch on his thing, and we had to wait a week and a half until he got his closure surgery. So that was to close the wound. Obviously there was a massive risk for infection there, but with, like, if I seen a change, I did see a change, to be honest, but it wasn't for too long, because Leo got like sepsis after the surgery. I think it's a very weird name, I can't say it. It's like Enterococcus facialis, and it originates in the bowel. So they said because it's in the bowel, they're guessing that from surgery, but we can't say for sure. But so he had that, and he took really bad. He was, instead of having a high temperature, he was really cold, and it was like bluish, palish, like a blue, purple, pale skin. It was really, really weird, and he just sweating, like the sweat that was coming off him. If you touched his skin, your finger would just be dripping of sweat. It was really bad. But he had that, and then I think he was on really strong antibiotics for about 3 weeks. And then he started to get better again, and then he went into a pulmonary hypertension crisis when that was in December. I think it was about a week before Christmas, and that's when we thought we were going to lose him. We really did.
Oh. All right. I'm just going to let you keep telling the story. So you...
Okay. Right, I'll keep telling the story. So he had this pulmonary hypertension crisis, where one day I think it was a really bad gas that he had, and then he sat. I think he desatted down to 60, and obviously he usually does is that, like, when he'll cry, he'll dace out a bit down to probably 60s, 70s. But when he done it this time, obviously the nurses came back to him and he wouldn't come back up, was not coming back up. He was sitting in 60 and sort of back. It was about an hour, like oxygen to 100, nothing was helping. And he was still on nitric at this point, mind. He'd already, obviously, he came off it before his first surgery, and then he went back on it at his second, and I think he came off. He didn't come fully off. I think they got it down to about one part per million, and then it got that to put it all back up to 20. So he went to this crisis, and he stayed in 60, and we brought him up to about 70, and he was sitting in 70 the full night, the full day after, and it was ward round, and the nurses came round, and they gave him paralytics as well, and they done an echo, and it was something complicated about the one ventricle filling up too much and putting pressure. I can't remember, to be honest. And the nurses came, like, everyone on ward round, and they just all had this horrible look on their face, like, just sitting, like, just looking at you like, this is it, kind of, like, that look on your face. And I said, yous are going to tell us this is it, aren't yous? And then they all just nodded their head. And I said, so yous are saying he's gonna die? And they said, yeah. And I broke down. I was by myself. Clayton was at work, and I had to ring everyone, bring them in. I had to bring Clayton in from work. I had to bring him out of work, and we all came over. And I said to one of the consultants, I said, can you get ECMO? And they said, I'll ring. So they came back. They rang and came back and said, no, you can't get ECMO. And I said, and at this point, I was so furious. I just felt like no one had any hope for Leo, and I was the only one that did. I thought every time he does something, when he's like in need of a bit more help, I said, you all go back on it. Like, this is it. It's like, you need to give it time, give him some time to recover from everything. So she came back and said, no, he can't get ECMO. She said, if he goes on it, he's not going to be able to come back off of it. So I just said, well, Leo's going to prove you wrong. And he did. So I think it was Christmas Day. But yeah, it was Christmas Day. He started getting better. After that, I think it was 7 days after everyone was saying this was going to happen. 7 days, he got extubated onto CPAP.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
He was something else.
Oh,
so
yeah, definitely.
All right, so mid-January, and he's doing really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and then how did things go?
So January was such a good month. Like, Leo was that was the best month he had. So obviously Christmas had been, it was New Year, and he'd been extubated. He was on CPAP, and his oxygen was coming down as well. So when he was getting extubated, I laughed at all the nurses while joking on about this, because I was so excited. I was running the corridors before it happened, and one of the parents, one of my friends, she just came out of the room. She said, Emma, they're going to do it. I was like, oh. So I ran into the room, and she said, are you sure you want to be here? Do you want to wait outside? Because usually when they do procedures, they say, wait outside, and I'll tell you when to come back in. And I said, no, I want to be here. It's such a proud moment. I was there with my camera and everything. So they had the doctors and everything. Everyone was ready to reintubate him. I'm telling you, everyone even admitted it. They said, not going to lie, we did not think he was going to stay on CPAP. We thought he was just going to be like, nope. But he didn't. He loved CPAP. He was doing really well. We got to take his oxygen down, everything, because Leo's normal was about 50s, 40s, and he was in 30s. Then he was on CPAP for a week, and then he had some really good gases, like seriously overventilated gases, and we got to put him on high flow, and that was really good. Honestly, January was the best month that we had with Leo. So I had this. He was on high flow, I think, for about a week, no, 2 weeks, sorry, and I got cold, so I wasn't. I didn't go on the unit for a week, and I was ringing him every single day. And they said, I rang him one day, and they said, oh, he hasn't had a good gas. His CO2 has gone up, so we're putting his pressure up on the high flow. But he got down to 2 on high flow, and he was even tried on a low flow as well, but he didn't. I think the first time he was on low flow, he lasted about 30 seconds, and then the next time he had to go about 15 minutes he was on low flow, and then he was back on high flow. But anyways, she rang us this day and said he's had a bad gas, so we're going to put him up a little bit, and then the next one wasn't too good, so it was just the keep on putting this flow up. And then rang us one day, he's back on CPAP. But I didn't really think anything of it. I thought, like, you can't expect to go in a straight line, can you? You're always going to go back, and you need to be ahead of those steps back as well. But when he was on CPAP, we started talking to the consultant, saying, so when do you think home time is? Are we going to go home soon? And they're like, yeah, we'd say about Easter time. And this was in February. I was like, Easter? I was like, that's too far away. I was like, no, I'm thinking next month. But anyways, we got to go on like a little tour of the respiratory ward, so not intensive care unit, not high dependency. It was just like a ward for respiratory babies, and we were so excited. We were like, this is it. We're finally going to go on this ward where you can stay with them overnight, and you have like little telling room, your own private room. We got so excited. And then his CO2 started messing up again, and it started going up. And we just thought, well, maybe he needs a tracheostomy or something like CPAP at home. And we started talking about them things. And then he got up to the highest pressure on CPAP. And they said, that actually sat us down, the doctor sat us down and said, you know, we're getting a bit worried now that he's gone back all this way back to the beginning of January where he was. And they said, we're worried. And I said, I'm not worried. I said, just give him a bit of time, he can do it. But it started just creeping up, and then he went on a BiPAP, and just kept switching him from CPAP and BiPAP, saying what he liked best, but his CO2 just wasn't playing up with it. And skip ahead 2 weeks after that, and I had a sit down with the doctors, and I said, does he qualify for a tracheostomy? And the doctor said no. They said his CO2 was too high. He was in about 60-70% oxygen most of the time, and he was still, whenever he'd cry, he'd drop his oxygen right to the bottom, like 50s, and go purple, colour change, everything. So when that was happening, I had one of the doctors came on the road round and said, oh, tomorrow do you want to have like a sit down, because I'm on this week, so we'll have a sit down and talk properly about like the catch up with Leo. I said okay. So the next day I went in, and it was this, I was expecting it to be a catch up with everyone, and it was loads of consultants, doctors, nurses, physios, everyone, and they just said, we don't think Leo's going to make it the next few weeks. And I said, what do you mean? He's only on CPAP. I wasn't expecting it at all, what they told us. I said, a few weeks. I said, really? I said, no. I said, that can't be right. He's on CPAP. He sits, he babbles, he's moving about, he sits in his bouncy chair, he loves that. I said, how can that happen when he's such a baby full of life? I said, how do you expect me to turn off his machines when he's just full of life? I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that, and I won't. I said to one of the doctors, I said, when everyone had went out the room and he came to sit and see how I was, and I said, I said, be straight and be honest. I said, what % chance do you think I have of taking Leo home? And he said 0. I said, I couldn't put that in my head. I couldn't. So anyways, literally the next day, I went home after being at the hospital with Leo, and I came back home and I said, I rang the nurses just to see how he was, because I know what time he gets his gases done. And I said, oh, what's his gas? And they said, his gas is really high. Like, usually if he had a bad gas, it would be 12, but this time it was 17. And my heart dropped. I said, he's never had a gas like that in his life. And they said, we're going to do it again. We've got the consultants here. We're going to do it again in half an hour, see what that's like. If we've made like a few tweaks on his BiPAP and see what happens. So I rang back and they'd done it again and said his CO2 has gone up even more, and they said we're going to have to intubate him. And that's when I knew. When I got to intubating him, I said, that's it. I was really lost for words when they said they were going to intubate him. So I rang all the family and I told them, I said, don't come to the hospital yet. We are going to go and see what's happening. So me and Clayton drove to the hospital. It was like 15-20 minute drive, and we got in and they wouldn't let us go in. And I said, they said, just go and sit in my office and I'll come and get you. And they intubated him. When they intubated him, I went to go and see him. Obviously they gave him some like paralytics, but he hadn't had anything like that. He just came off the morphine, like, for the first time. He's like, just came off the morphine, and then it started back up again. So I had to give him, I think it was fentanyl, morphine, and I think at one point pancuronium as well. So he was fighting it. So they gave him pancuronium, the one that like paralyzes you. They gave him, and he was fighting it. He always stayed. Like, you'd give him that and expect him to be like zonked. No, he was still kicking about. He hated it, and that's because he hated the tube. He hates being intubated. But we went in and they were able to take his oxygen down. So prior to that, I think he was in 100%, but they brought it down to 50, and I thought that is such a good sign. They're doing the gas, and he was massively overventilated, so like they take pressures down on his ventilator. And they sat down with us and said, obviously we're worried, we're going to see how he responds to being intubated and see if that gives him a bit of time of rest. So we went, we didn't even go home that night. We stopped up all night with Leo, and Clayton went to go and sleep in his car outside. It was about -2 outside. He went to go and sleep in his car, and the nurses ran to go and get him and let us stay in. They just put up this little bed in a room and let us stay there for a few hours. But the next morning I woke up and I went to go and see them, and he had a all right gas. Oh, actually no, on the night before that, like when we were staying with Leo, obviously he'd just been intubated and he had a really good gas. So they took me down a little bit, and then an hour later, because we were doing like gases by the hour, and an hour later, done a gas, and his CO2 was sky high. It was so high, it was higher than before. I think it was like 20. And I said, how can that be when you have literally just done a gas on him there, and it was a beautiful gas, and they said, we don't know. And I said, can you get x-ray up? And they said, yeah, we're ringing now. And they done an x-ray, because I thought he had pneumothorax again, and he didn't. It turns out it was something like a part of his lung had like folded, like it closed down, and it wasn't opening. And so done that x-ray and said, right, we're going to turn him on his side, see if it helps to open, and it didn't. So anyways, the next day I went over and he had a CT scan booked. So he went to CT and we got the results straight away off that, actually. And they just told us what we already knew, like about his lungs being so damaged. So it didn't really give us anything, to be honest. And I can't really remember much after that, but I'll try to. So anyways, we got that family got accommodation again, because we wanted to be like at the hospital next to him. So we got that room straight away. And we went to the room just to have a lie down for an hour, have a shower, have something to eat, and I rang the ward and they were just about to do the gas. So I said, I'm going to quickly run over while I do the gas. And then I went over, and as I was hanging up my coat outside the room, a nurse came out and she said, have you been in yet? And I said, no, why? I said, we've had to oscillate him again. And then so when you know that that's the highest point, when he's getting oscillated. And then she just turned around and hugged us, and God, I'm really sorry if I cry.
It's okay.
And she said, there's nothing more we can do. So I rang Clayton, and he was only round the corner with his nana. So I got them in, and we went to have a meeting with the consultant, and he basically told us that Leo was not going to survive the night, and we had to think of what we wanted to do. And I said, I would keep on pushing it. I said, I don't want to let him go. I had it in my head that this isn't real. So I said, no, keep doing what you have to do. Keep doing everything. And then so Leo has always been really bad for cannulating. His veins are really bad. So we're trying to get a cannula in because his cannula tissued, it wasn't working anymore, and we only had one in, and it was really like it was like a primary one, like, so it was tiny and there was so much fluid going through it. So it was like basically a race against time to get this cannula in, because if that one went, then we were stuck and wouldn't have anything. Like, say if worst came to worst, if we had to turn his machine off, we wouldn't be able to like give him drugs he needs so it's nice, kind of thing. That's all I had in my head. So the doctor was doing, like, trying to find cannula, tried his legs, his arms, everywhere you can name. And back in December, when Leo took bad, he had a scalp cannula in, and this time, and so I remembered that, and I said, can you do a scalp cannula? Would you try it? And said, right, we'll see what we can do if you're happy with us to do that. And so he literally just got the razor out to shave Leo's head, and Clayton came in and he said, no, stop. He said, stop, I don't want this. So we had this debate of what we should do and what's right, what's wrong. And so we went back into the meeting room with the nurses and everyone. Oh, I forgot to mention, we'd had Leo christened at this point as well. So we got everyone over, all our families. We had a lovely little christening for Leo, and we had his little outfit. It was really beautiful. But when we're having this debate of what's right or wrong to do this cannula, Clayton was arguing that this is it, and it doesn't want any more pain, which obviously I agree with. But all I was thinking was, if we lose this cannula, I don't want Leo to go in a horrible way. I don't want him to fight. I want him to go peacefully and not know. So we all agreed to do the cannula, and he went in and he couldn't even do the cannula. He couldn't find his vein in his head. He tried. That was the last resort. And when I found that out, everyone just looked at us, even Clayton. They said, "We need to do it, Emma." I said, "No, I didn't want to." I told you I'd cry. I don't want to.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna end up crying too. It's okay.
So I was an absolute mess, and Clayton just said, "Emma, we'll get the sofa in, we'll get Leo out, we'll cuddle all night," and I think that just persuaded us. Just like, I knew it was time. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to say, like, yeah, go ahead. I just really didn't want to actually do that. So we had a lovely night. We got Leo out for cuddles. We got this big sofa in. We had blankets and we all cuddled. And we actually, while we were all like snuggled up together, we all thought because he was kicking a little bit before he got his meds, and we thought he kicked his cannula out, and that was like obviously the last cannula, and I had to shout for the consultant, and I said, "His cannulas came out," but it was literally hanging out by a thread, and I had to push it back in. It was fine, but it got to 6 o'clock in the morning, and we knew it was time. Really, we knew it was time. And I said, "Okay, really." I didn't want to. Obviously, no one wants to do that. So they rang the consultant to come in, and he came in and said, "Okay, we're going to do it." And they put Leo down my top on my chest and extubated him, and he went straight away. He didn't try to breathe. He was so weak, and he just went. And it's such a beautiful way to go. Like, I hoped he'd go that way. That's the way I wanted him to go. He was nice, he was chilled, and he went to heaven straight away. And that's what we wanted for him. And as bad as it was beautiful. And as soon as he passed that, I lay him back, and we'll put a blanket around him, and we got the story. The tiger came to tea, and we just sat and read to him, and everyone came to see him. All the nurses came to see him, and it was really, really nice. Everyone loved Leo so much. Everyone there was crying. There wasn't one person that wasn't crying, and it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, and I still get so scared by it. Just to think of it again, I get flashbacks, and it's so horrible. But I know that he's with us. Like, he'll be with us now. Like, about an hour before he passed, actually, all our family was sitting in the waiting room. It was just like this tiny room, and a white feather fell onto Clayton's mum's lap, and so we knew the angels were there waiting for him. And he went really, really peacefully. And as soon as he went, I said to the doctors, I said, "I want to go home." I wanted to take him home where he belongs. We'd been in the hospital for 4 months, and we just knew it was home time. We wanted to go home, and that's what we done. On that same day, we arranged to take him home in our own car, in his car seat that we got him, and we took him home, and we just sat and we got food. We watched The Lion King in bed, and it was so lovely. We were together again. That's all we wanted, us to be together, and that's what we got. But it was so nice to have him home. And the next day we took him to the beach in his pram, and all the family came to him, and everyone had a cuddle off him, because obviously when you're in the NICU, there's only the mum and dad that can hold the baby here. I don't know if it's the same over there, but only the mum and dads can like touch Leo. So everyone was able to cuddle him, and it was lovely. I'm just moving you. I'm putting you on charge. Okay. My phone's gonna die. It's just on 7, so I'm just moving location.
Oh, you're fine. So in the UK, you're allowed to do something that most parents in the US can't do.
All right.
You're allowed to take your baby home. You're allowed to have a cuddle cot. That's not something that is an option for most families in the US. I only know of 2 US families that are allowed to. No, we have to leave the babies in the hospital, and then we have the funeral with, you know, a few days or a week later. We don't get the opportunity that you all get. And so can you explain to the American families or to other countries, because most have no idea what that is?
All right. So yeah, obviously when Leo passed, all we wanted to do was take him home, and the hospital was so good with that, and they arranged it straight away. They were all running about doing stuff to get the arrangements made, because there's so much that needs to be done. I think it's you need to inform the police as well, because you're taking a baby home that's deceased really in the car, so you need to inform loads of people. And when he came home, we had him for the night, and we had him for the next day as well, and we called our funeral director, and when the funeral director came, he said, Leo, like, he needs my help, basically, the nicest way to put it. So Leo went, he got embalmed. He went for, I think we left, he went on the Saturday, he went to the funeral directors on Saturday, and we got him back on Tuesday. And we got a cuddle cot, and basically what that is this little mat that goes in the bed, and it's really cold, so it plugs into the wall, and it's really cold, basically to keep Leo cold. So we're gonna have him in his cot, but he was just on top of this mat that was keeping him cold, and it just basically helps preserve him. Because obviously we knew we'd had to do that, and with the cuddle cot, we were able to keep Leo home for almost 2 weeks until his funeral, and that was the best thing that we could have asked for. We had him for almost 2 weeks at home with us, and with that, I don't know, I think it would have made it very hard, the grieving process for me, because I would have thought I haven't spent time with him, I haven't showed him home, but we were able to take him home, and that was the best thing. It gives you a very lot of closure. You can pick him up, cuddle him, put him in the bed, put him in his cot. Just things like that. Just being a family, like would waited so long to do that, and we're finally able to do it. So I can't thank everyone involved with that enough, because it brought us a family. It brought us like that family unit that we'd never had.
Now, something else that you unfortunately had and lost a baby in the middle of a global pandemic.
Oh yeah.
On top of everything,
Yeah.
all the grief, and then trying to plan a funeral and having to do with that. Do you want to talk about how hard that was, not to be able to do everything you wanted because there were so many laws right now?
Yeah, so here in the UK, you're only allowed out basically for your shopping or to go on one exercise, and I think for funerals it is 10 people allowed, and that's at a crematorium, and I think it's 10 people at the graveside. I'm not sure on that one though. But with planning the funeral, obviously Leo passed away just before the lockdown started, so we'd had everything planned, and then I got a call one day from the funeral director, and he said, "Oh, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but all churches have closed." And for being in a church that, like, I'm a religious person, that was important to me. I wanted a big funeral service with everyone there in a church, and that's how you've always knew funerals to be, in a church for me. But they said we can't do it in a church, and I said, right, okay. So I had to figure it out, and to be honest, it was everything was an uncertainty. Like, we planned everything, but like, what if this can't happen? What if this can't happen? So we didn't really know, and so I ended up we were only allowed a service at the crematorium, and it was a 20-minute service. So I had to do like a fast service. So it was just basically so people can be there for a minimal amount of time. Everyone had to social distance. To be honest, not many, like a lot of people came, but not many that were meant to be coming because of all of this. Like, we couldn't have, like, some of our family couldn't even be there. Friends, best friends, loads and loads of people could not be there. And everyone that was there was sitting, like, they were standing 2 meters apart. Everyone was scattered across the garden and the crematorium. And to be honest, that was my biggest worry as well, because I just thought, like, why? I wanted him to have such a big send off that everyone will remember, that everyone would be there, and not many people had the chance to say goodbye to Leo, and that really breaks my heart for them as well. Like, my aunties, my uncles, my cousins as well, they couldn't come, and a lot of people are in that high risk category. Like, my dad's in the high risk, but he still came. But we got told that we were only meant to have 10 people there, but because it was a baby funeral, they allowed us to have as many people as we needed, but obviously warned us that it was at our own risk, basically. But a lot of people came to the funeral. I'd say about 20 to 30 people came, but it's just, even now, it's still so hard. Like, it's like I've been taken out of the hospital that I was in for 4 months, and now I've just been placed in my house and not allowed to leave. Like, I'm sitting, like, I'm looking at the same 4 walls every day, and I don't think people, obviously this is hard for everyone. This pandemic is so hard. Everyone's locked in the house, but when you're trying to grieve, it's even harder because your mind plays as well, and it's a mental challenge every day. And I know quite a few of the parents have said that as well. Like, we just want to go out. Like, me and Clayton said, just when Leo passed, we said, I want to go. I want to get away from this country. Like, we wanted to go somewhere abroad just to chill and relax ourselves, to get away from everything. And we'd planned that. We wanted to go to Cambodia, where my dad lives. And we thought, right, got something to look forward to chill out, to sort ourselves out. But then came out, you can't leave the country, you can't leave your house, and I'm getting so bored of it now. I've just been able to go on one walk, and that's it really. But that's not enough for me. We can't just go and see our family. Like, everyone, it's not just me grieving, it's our whole family, and we can't see each other. And if, say, someone comes to our house and they just need to sit in the car, we can't give each other a hug. No one can hug each other. We need to talk through FaceTime, and that's just not enough.
I'm sorry, Emma. I can't imagine going through this and not being able to hug your family and your friends and to grieve with all the people who loved him. And it's awful. It's not fair. And I'm so sorry. So sorry.
Thank you. It is really, really hard, but you know, it makes you stronger every day when you try. You just can't do anything. Like, I want to see people, but I can't. And like, say, yesterday, one of the babies that was on the unit with Leo, he sadly passed away, and the funeral was yesterday, and they could only have 10 people here, like, at the funeral. They couldn't have anyone to hug them, nothing like that, and that was really sad. She had to pick people of her family that would go to her son's funeral, and I can't even imagine that. Like, I was lucky that Leo had just had the cut-off point of, like, it wasn't as bad when it was Leo's funeral, so we were able to have quite a few people there. But I think the hardest part is when you're grieving. That is the hardest part, because you literally can't grieve. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Like, I wanted to. Well, actually, we've got this thing planned that we take some of Leo's ashes and put it in a ring, so like, I can wear them, like, have them always with us. But that factory is now shut, so I can't get that ring, and I wanted to do so. For meant to give everyone a piece, like a bit of Leo's ashes to all of our family, so we'll not plant trees with the Leo's ashes. And we can't do that because we can't go and see anyone. We can't have family gatherings, and that has really affected us. I think that's the biggest part about it, being locked down.
I'm sorry. Hopefully it'll be over soon, and you can do all those amazing things in memory of such an incredible little boy. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet him. That makes me sad that I was in the UK. It's so close, and
I know. I really wish that I would have knew. I really wish I knew, and I would have been pestering you to come.
Well, it's definitely my loss, but I hope to meet you someday. And I thank you. And we're here. You need somebody to talk to. You know, we have thousands of families who understand what it's like to lose a baby from CDH. Not under these circumstances, but we are here, and whatever we can do, just let us know.
Yeah, thank you.